Movies. Movies never made. Always wonder what if. Hello, folks. Welcome back to Ferox Frank Reviews. And today, well, today we're going to take it back a little bit. Just ease back a little bit. So, last time I reviewed The Mummy, which is a successfully good movie, and people have been talking about a fourth film for some time now. They may do it, they may not do it. I'm open for it. Hey, if it gets Brendan Fraser back in the shape and him back in the films, do it. Go ahead, just do it. For right now, when I was reviewing the movie, I couldn't help but think about another film that could have been made by the same people, only released 3 years earlier. And yet, it never got made. Had it been made, we would have had a massive franchise about 20 years earlier than expected. But hey, it always gets you thinking about the what ifs. So today, I'm going to take a break from doing a movie review and talk about films that were just never made. I have 4 particular films to talk about today, so let's get right down to it. This is Unmade Movies.
Trust, a broken vow, a fragile piece, lost somehow, the weight of words.
Let's start off with a film that almost got made, but way back in the 1940s. There was talks about this movie from way back in the way back in the 40s, during the end of the Second World War, that the effects creator Willis O'Brien came up with an idea for a movie that combined 2 Hollywood iconic monsters, or 2 big names in the monster genre, to go head to head. It sounds completely crazy. He actually made a script, concept art, and everything though. Now, while he was making it, the project was actually known as King Kong versus Frankenstein. But the end result, the final product name was called King Kong versus Prometheus. Now, Prometheus is actually a monster developed by Frankenstein's descendant to go head to head with King Kong. Now, just hearing that alone sounds like an insane movie concept altogether. And given the fact that the film would have been released as late as the late 1940s or early 1950s, this is spelling out a big name film with 2 major franchise characters like we have the Frankenstein monster and King Kong. Now, those 2 could have never worked together, but the monster known as Prometheus, which is made out of a bunch of massive animal parts, has potential. I mean, and supposedly somewhere during the script it could have said that some of the animal parts would have been the remains of the original King Kong, and what we have here is another King Kong to go head to head. This spells potential, like a potential box office hit. It sounds completely insane, and honestly, it sounds like it would have been a great hit altogether, like a batshit crazy hit. As far as the script goes, or the storyline, it would have been mostly like another King Kong was discovered, only this time around they kept it more in a wildlife sanctuary, and at this point in time, Victor Frankenstein's descendant, or Henry Frankenstein, however you want to put it, supposedly the storyline would have been how all the Universal monster movies were connected at some point. They would have also connected the RKO King Kong film and actually put it in the same universe category. And saying that this Frankenstein is actually the descendant of Henry Frankenstein, and he wanted to make a new monster, and he was actually constructed by the German military, only this time around by the German military, and actually to make a monster for the Axis powers, but it didn't work out in the end because the Axis powers fell, and he still created the monster regardless, though. But the soldiers didn't tell him that the war was over. Okay, the end result would have actually been that the two monsters would have clashed with each other violently in New York City. So we could have had an epic showdown between King Kong and this monster known as Prometheus in New York City. Now, apparently Prometheus would have been far stronger than King Kong, but in the end, King Kong would have actually beaten the monster by maybe ripping its limbs off or tearing its head off. But either way, it would have been a very bloody, brutal match. Anyway, that's the synopsis of what the film could have been. What they would have done with King Kong afterwards, nobody knows. But why wasn't the film made? Well, apparently nobody thought this movie was going to work out. Yeah, O'Brien actually had sold the script to several studios and pitched it to several other studios, and nobody wanted to make the movie. It was ridiculous. So one producer in Hollywood actually brought the script over to Japan instead and gave it to Toho Studios. And well, you know what Toho is mostly famous for, right? And this was like late in the 50s. And this was like around 1960 when this happened. Like late 1950s, 1960 when this happened. And so they decided, this idea sounds like a good idea. Crossing over two monsters that would have never have worked. Yeah, this could actually work altogether. So the original project name for that movie was called Godzilla vs. Frankenstein, where they had like Godzilla going against like kaiju-sized Frankenstein. However, that was still too ridiculous, though. What's even more ridiculous, so the movie was scrapped, and the ridiculous part is they still used the concept later, like years later, in Frankenstein Conquers the World. Completely ridiculous altogether. However, because of that, they decided to actually use the other monster instead, King Kong. And what we had, in the end, was King Kong versus Godzilla. That spawned the franchise. So this whole thing started because of a failed film that Willis O'Brien was trying to get Willis O'Brien was trying to get off the ground. So, now, to be fair, Ray Harryhausen and Willis O'Brien went on record saying they weren't actually happy with the fact that they had Godzilla versus King Kong. But in hindsight, they were both two of the most popular giant monsters in film history. So having them clash together was actually sort of a good thing. Not to mention, the film actually saved Godzilla's film career. So, yeah. We would have had like one film, but we got another film. We actually had several other films out of it instead. Makes you wonder, what if? Honestly, as good as King Kong vs. Godzilla was, and as Frankenstein Conquers the World was, I really, deep down inside, the small child in me who loves, my inner child who loves these giant monster movies, really wants to see a stop-motion film with King Kong versus a monster that Frankenstein created called Prometheus. It just never happened. Never happened in the end.
Empty promises, a fading light, consumed by shadows, endless night.
Speaking of King Kong, during my last film review, I did mention that the guys who worked on the Mummy film they were also supposed to work on a King Kong movie from back in '96. Yeah, I really wish I was making that part up. I don't even know if it was the same team or not, but yeah, apparently word got out that in 1994, to coincide with another film, they decided to make another monster movie to coincide along with the movie, just, have a box office rival to go along with it. Unfortunately, both films never got made. Alright, so anyway, the idea was to actually have a King Kong film made, but the style of the movie would have been done the exact same way how the Mummy was done. Yeah, with the insane batshit crazy storyline, the pure action adventure, all the action adventure stuff that actually happens throughout the entire movie. The same concept, except it's King Kong. Now, here's the thing. All right. There's been rumors going around saying that the movie was supposed to be taking place in the 1930s, but then I heard another rumor saying that it was supposed to take place in '96, within the film's actual timeline, within the actual present day, which is extremely weird. So the movie would have took place in the modern day, and King Kong would have been much more bigger than expected. In fact, supposedly he would have gone up against like other monsters or something, rather than just dinosaurs, but also dinosaur-like monsters and maybe a giant insect or something. This is just a crazy rumor I've heard. I'm not too sure that's even true or not. But the idea that we could have had a batshit crazy King Kong film like that, now that I think about it, did we get something similar to that? Oh wait, we kind of did. Yeah. So imagine this in '96, only with '96 effects, and the actor and mainstream actors from that point in time. Actually, I can see Samuel L. Jackson in that film too. Like, I mean, he was actually one of the main human villains in this movie, so I can actually see him in that movie too. Like, all joking aside. But yeah, just think about this. We could have had a King Kong film in '96 that would have been most likely a remake of the 1930s film. So it could have been like maybe the Peter Jackson film, only less drama in it though, and more action in it. And what took place in '96. Oh, wow. Just the possibilities alone. It could be either like maybe like a precursor to Peter Jackson's King Kong, which was a massive hit, or Kong Skull Island. Just think about that for a minute. We could have had the film could have been either one, but if it was anything like Kong Skull Island, then it would have coincided with another monster film that would have been released around that point in time. But that film didn't wind up getting released until 2 years later. And while it was number 3 at the box office, we didn't get a proper version of that film until probably 12 years later. 20 years after it was originally announced. Oh boy, you guys know what I'm talking about. That's going to be the next film we're going to be talking about in a couple of minutes. But just the idea of a King Kong film in the mid 90s sounds like a really good idea. Like gorilla effects and everything. So even if it was a CGI gorilla, would have been cool regardless. But unfortunately, the film never got made at all. But coincidentally, there was a King Kong film made in the 90s. So, but it's not what you're thinking. In fact, it was a King Kong musical, an animated musical film. I was surprised to even find out there even was a King Kong animated musical. It was my God, it was a direct-to-video film, and I may have actually seen it in the video store at one point, but I didn't connect the dots at that point in time. So I think I just saw it. It didn't interest me, so I just looked at some of the other stuff because I was actually pretty old. Because I was over 10 years old at that point in time, so I didn't really give a shit. But curiosity got the best of me because when I looked up King Kong on YouTube, that film was one of the first things that popped up on YouTube. Yeah, and apparently the whole film is on YouTube. It's just over an hour long. It's a musical. So, yeah, it's a literal King Kong musical before the actual King Kong musical. And no, I did not see the King Kong musical. But I probably should have, though, but still, I'm just saying. Oh, and here's another fun fact, too. Now, we all know there was a bunch of Tarzan films. There was actually several Tarzan movies made in the 90s as well. Aside from the Disney film, there was also several live-action films that would have been hardcore action movies. Anyway, here's a bit of a fun fact that I discovered, and it coincides with the King Kong film. Apparently, the gorilla molds that were used in the Tarzan toy collection from that point in time, I don't know which live-action Tarzan film it was for, or maybe it was a McFarlane Tarzan film, like a McFarlane Tarzan toy line. But here's a fun fact: the gorilla molds that were actually used were actually the leftover King Kong molds that were never used in the film, that never got made. Keep that in mind. If you actually own a gorilla toy that was actually from like the 90s Tarzan collection, from like one of the live action films, or probably the McFarlane collection, or whatever, keep this in mind, that was originally King Kong. Yeah. mind blown, people.
Empty promises, a fading light, consumed by shadows, endless night. From the depths, a titan's might echoes through the
Yeah,
endless night.
I have to talk about this movie. The unmade American Godzilla film has been a subject talked about for for around 30 years now at this point. The movie would have been released over 30 years ago, and it would have been the first true American Godzilla film, but nope, it never got made. In fact, years ago, somebody actually made the entire thing into a comic book and posted it online, and the end result was one of the main comments, and a lot of people like this comment, and it's a true comment. Why the hell didn't they make this movie? It's way better than the 98 film. For some of you who don't know, and some of you guys who follow me on TikTok and follow me on here on YouTube, here's the situation of the whole film, or the synopsis, the whole thing. Back in 1994, TriStar Sony got the rights to actually make an actual American-made Godzilla film for here in the United States. Godzilla actually had a huge amount of fans here in the U.S., so it would have been perfect. Yeah, and of course, and a lot of filmmakers were also huge Godzilla fans, so it would have worked out. Stan Winston, who was contracted to actually make the Godzilla effects via animatronics, and of course, ILM were also fans of Godzilla too. So we could have had CG, guy in the suit, and of course animatronics all rolled into one film, Godzilla film that would have been an epic American Godzilla film from the 1990s. And God, they fucked it up into the 98 piece of crap. So, all joking aside, 98 film has been shit on for so long. I reviewed it many years. I did review it years ago, and I did give it a decent review. That as a Godzilla film, it's a god awful piece of shit. But as a monster movie, it's really good. I mean, seriously, a lot of people have actually grown to like the movie even more and more. I mean, I actually like watching that movie from time to time. I mean, when I was a kid, I was a pre-teenager. I liked the movie back then. I mean, when I got older, I hated it. But as I got older again, I wound up liking it again. So, it's a movie that actually has nostalgia factor to it. The advertisement for it was amazing. But the end result, it was ranked number 3 highest grossing film that year in 98. Yeah, and look at the competition that came out that year, too. Oh, yeah. Just think about that. But all joking aside, what would have happened with the 94 film? Well, the movie was called the 94 film, but it was originally slated, but the way the film was going to be made, it would have been released in 96. Now, here's the thing. If it was released in 96, the storyline and the synopsis was leaked online and thus make it the comic book. But if you haven't seen the comic book, for the love of God, type it up, read it, and just look it over. I mean, it's a good comic book. I mean, it's kind of hard to get a physical copy, but my God, it's actually worth reading. And you know what? Since Warner Brothers owns the distribution rights, they need to talk to Legendary Pictures and get an animated film out of it. That could actually work, all joking aside. But here's what the synopsis was. All right, the synopsis was that Godzilla was actually created by the Atlanteans millions of years ago, like over 1 million years ago, because that's when the Empire of Atlantis came around. It's an ancient human civilization, and aliens came into the Earth to actually, take it over. But of course, mankind created the ancient humans back then created Godzilla, and he fought the aliens off, and now he's in hibernation right now. And so the aliens have come back again, this time launching their own monster. That actually is a chimerian creature. Once fully grown, it represents the griffin of ancient mythology. And the movie basically shows Godzilla actually waking up just several years early, and he goes on a rampage from Tokyo up to San Francisco. From Tokyo to San Francisco, but they do wind up stopping him because the liquid that was actually used that was around him was a sedative liquid. Right. But once the Griffin creature was actually later active, now active, the sedative liquid stopped working on Godzilla because now he's fully activated and he goes after the creature. But the movie would have took place from Alaska to Japan to San Francisco, and the finale of the film also in parts of Texas. Also Texas, Washington, with some of the human scenes, and the finale fight would have took place in New York City. And I saw the scale model too they were going to use for New York City. It was massive. I mean, they actually had the foreground backgrounds and everything from New York City and to my old hometown of Lyndhurst, New Jersey, where I grew up. Rutherford, East Rutherford, Kearney, the Meadowlands section. That whole section of New Jersey was all planned out. Like, what the fuck? I could have had a Godzilla film. You mean my town would have been in an American-made Godzilla film? For shame, Hollywood! Although my town and the entire state of New Jersey was represented properly in the Sopranos TV series, so we're all good. For shame! Okay, I'm done with that. Anyway, the final fight would have been the most gruesome fight ever, and it would have been a mixture of CG, guy in the suit, and practical effects. Where Godzilla basically would have actually tore the Griffin's head off, but the body would have kept on fire until he shot his heat right into the body and blew it up. And what's even more weird is that they actually wound up using the Korean director of Jan Gary, aka Reptilian, used it in his final fight. I wouldn't say that's plagiarism, but to be fair, we never got a chance to see it. Also, Godzilla being created by the Atlanteans. Here's a bit of a fun fact too. Gamera Guardian of the Universe came out in '96 in the United States. Well, actually, was it '95 or '96? Either way, it came out. But here's the thing: in development of that film, they decided to actually make Gamera created by the Atlanteans. So that would have been like a weird coincidence altogether. But actually, now that I think about that, it's kind of a weird coincidence. Also, what I said earlier with the King Kong film, if the movie had the '90s King Kong film been made in the '90s, him fighting up all the monsters, one of the possible sequels would have been to set up the rematch between King Kong and Godzilla. That would have been like an epic rematch in the '90s. They were supposed to actually make a rematch back in '90 in Japan, but they didn't have the rights for it, sadly. And believe me, that is like a whole different story altogether, though. But just imagine this: the American Godzilla film being made the way it could have been, epic. All I'd say is epic and awesome. We deserve better, my friends. We deserve better. Unfortunately, we didn't get a full American Godzilla until 2014. Yeah. For shame.
Empty promises, a fading light, consumed by shadows, endless night.
Yep. I gotta talk about this one real quick. So, I'm sure most of you guys who are into B films or direct-to-video films know about director William Malone. All right, one of his more ambitious movies is actually a movie called Creature, also known as the Titan Five. It's basically just an alien knockoff with elements of Hellraiser in it, though, in some sections. But this is before Hellraiser even was a thing. And some of the people who actually worked on the film actually would later work with James Cameron in Alien. So interesting to know that. But anyway, William Malone actually did see Hellraiser and thought of an idea of the fact, what if we had Hellraiser in space? Yeah. But the idea of the film is, anyway, the title sequence of the movie is called Dead Star. Right? And what it would have been, it legitimately would have been Hellraiser in space. That's the concept, alright? Like, how much of a concept? Well, basically, it would have been more or less like a criminal actually escaped the penal colony from, I think, the moon, actually went to one of the other moons of Jupiter. Only he was actually a demonic worshiper, and basically like the Marines go after the guy, but he finds the altar that actually would summon the demons straight out of hell, and thus would have opened the gateway to hell, and the entire solar system would have been consumed by hell. Yeah. So basically, the idea of the movie would have been like a mixture of Hellraiser in space, mixed in with the original version of Event Horizon. Yeah, the gore cut. And what I mean by that, I'm talking about the gore cut edition version that never saw the light of day. But there has been rumors that film actually did get made, and supposedly several copies do exist. But it's all on VHS, and VHSs are extremely fragile nowadays. So you kind of get the idea why not many people have actually seen that film. Which is unfortunate. But the idea of Dead Star, the way the storyline would have been worked out, it would have been like the main characters would have actually went after the criminal, actually probably killed him or something, or try to stop, or actually try looking for some pieces or something for an artifact to actually seal the gateway back up, and actually bring all the demons back into hell. Even the devil himself would have actually made an appearance at some point. But what would the whole film been like exactly? I would guess it would be a massive sci-fi nightmare of epic proportions. Want to know why? Because the concept art alone was actually done by, and I swear to fucking God, I wish I was making this up, H.R. Geiger. Yeah, the guy who created the Xenomorphs and the alien creatures from the Species franchise. This guy was hired by William Malone to actually make demons and the set design, even the devil himself. Oh my God. And the concept art is actually online on Google. Just type in Bill Malone, Death Star, concept art, and you'll see what the hell I'm talking about. The most crazy detail about the devil himself is that within his wings, you can literally see that there's a pattern of 666 in circles throughout the entire wing pattern, which is nuts. And the devil looks like a combination of the devil and a xenomorph. Only xenomorphified, but it's more like you can see the skull, and it looks like it's biomechanical. But much like how the xenomorph was designed. It looks fucking terrifying. And honestly, this whole concept would have been a massive... It could have been like a mixture of like what Event Horizon could have been. The Hellraiser, I should mention, like, okay, maybe not Hellraiser particularly, but more like Hellbound Hellraiser 2. The second part of the movie, you know, when they actually open up the gateway to hell. Yeah, that part. And Dante's Inferno. Yeah. I mean literally from the Divine Comedy itself, not the game or the fucking animated movie based off of the game. No, I'm talking about the Divine Comedy itself. Yeah, we could have had an epic horror sci-fi film that, okay, from the looks of it, it's a sci-fi horror film, but then it turned it into a biblical sci-fi horror film of epic proportions. This would have been the most action insane film ever made. Oh, wow. I mean, we're talking about grotesque deaths, spiritual, like, questioning faith. It's like, it would have been, like, in a fucking insane film. But unfortunately, no studio wanted to back up Bill Malone, and the film was eventually scrapped. You know what? All joking aside, we kind of need a film like that. With all the horror films we've had in recent years, all the insane astral horror films that came out over the years that were huge flops at the box office at first, but now actually received massive cult followings. Just think about it. Okay? This could have been an epic horror film. That could have been possibly what The Keep could have been had the studio not interfered with that movie, and we could have had the over 3 hour long cut version. Oh man, just think about it. The most epic, hellish movie ever made. That's something I wish was meant as a horror fan and a sci-fi fan. That would have been an epic film. But sadly, it's never made. Truly tragic.
Empty promises.
conclusion, folks. Let's talk about the conclusion. So what films would have actually worked and which ones wouldn't have worked? Well, I'm going to be completely honest here, but the King Kong versus Prometheus film, that would have actually worked. I mean, think about it. Like, the film industry was actually becoming more and more popular, and the monster films industry was actually getting more popular too, especially during the 1950s. Had the film been made in the 1950s, it could have stood a chance. I mean, think about it. I mean, just think about it. So we could have had an epic film like that being made, but no, it was eventually scrapped. As for the King Kong film in the 90s, again, would have actually, I think that could have worked out in the end. But it also would have worked out too had the Godzilla film been made too. But we could have had a King Kong and Godzilla film together released in the same year, just probably months apart. But what would have been the most craziest thing is if those films were connected. That would have been beyond epic. Oh yeah. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see like Godzilla, like the American Godzilla film until '98. But that was a movie most of people call it Zilla now, and the proper American Godzilla film wouldn't be made until 2014. As for King Kong, well, King Kong wasn't made until 2005, and an action-packed King Kong film that would just left all the drama out altogether wasn't made until 2017, unfortunately. And to make matters even more weird, instead of actually making a King Kong film, we actually wound up getting Mighty Joe Young in '98 as well. So, to be fair, that movie was okay, all joking aside. It was a Disney remake, but honestly, I've heard the original is way better. Actually, my king, the effects were done by Willis O'Brien and Ray Harryhausen. So, by default, it is better. But as for the American-made Godzilla film, like I said, epic awesomeness. Unfortunately, it was never made. And my guess is they probably would have actually, the critics would have talked shit about that movie anyways. Because the critics were assholes back then. Go figure. As for Dead Star, well, I'll tell you this much. Had that film ever been made or released, it would have gotten an easy NC-17 rating. Because it would have been the most intensive hardcore horror film ever made. But you know what? We could use something like that. So, I mean, there are so many horror films actually made, but a hardcore, and I mean a legit hardcore one that is NC-17 rated. Wow, we kind of need something like that to break the boundaries. The crazy thing is, the film could actually be made today. It could have easily gotten an R rating, and possibly see all the gory stuff that was probably cut out of it. Just released on DVD and Blu-ray as the director's extended cut, and that'd be fun. Anyway, these were films that could have been made, that were almost made, but weren't. It's a very sad case, but hey, what can I tell you? Sometimes Hollywood makes massive fuck-ups. Even to this day, they do. Maybe they'll learn their lesson. Yeah, right. Like they're ever going to learn that lesson. Actually, some of them actually do want to learn the lesson. Anyway, thank you for listening to my rants. And we could have had these movies, but we didn't. Tune in next time. I'll talk about, I'll do a Jet Li film next time. It's been a while since I've done one. So, until then, you all take care. If you're Frank,